Good morning. I wanted to demonstrate to you one of the things that I hope should happen in all of the international program Commo 101 classes. And I'm hoping that in each of the venues, whether you're in Florence, whether you're in Athens, Paris, Chile, New Zealand, in any of those venues, that you will be bringing in some people to discuss the culture in which you reside. That is, I think one of the very interesting things about cross-cultural communication is sitting down with someone from another culture and having them describe the differences between your culture, that is the American culture, and their culture. And so what I'm going to do today is demonstrate to you the sort of interviews I want you all to be having, wherever you happen to be, with people who are indigenous in the particular culture in which you're residing at the time. And I would like you to meet Henry Gonzalez. He's a student here at Harding, a very, very pleasant and very nice young man. He's from the country of Guatemala in Central America. And I'm going to be talking to Henry for a few moments, discussing some questions I think are important. And these are the sorts of questions, the sorts of dialogues that I would like for you to be having with others on your campuses. Thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
I appreciate it. And the first question I've got down here, Henry, is what was your biggest surprise upon coming to America?
Well, to be honest, when I first arrived, I came late to the airport and it was night. But for me, that I have lived always in Guatemala, we have only 2 seasons and it's pretty much the same whole year round. But when we came here, it was late and it was still light. So seeing the sun, I was confused, like, what time is it? And it was like almost 9. I was just a little bit shocking.
Were you here in the summer?
Exactly, it was
Oh,
like
I see,
August.
I see. So the sun was still up, and you didn't know what time it was. You were just shocked by the presence of the sun that late at night.
Exactly, because I am used, the sun goes down around 5:30 or 6. So it was like, oh, what's going on? So that was my first impression. Then we start driving, and I was expecting to see big buildings and things like that. That was not the case, so it was not like in the movies. And then upon my arrival to school, the dorm mom took me to my room, and the first thing she said, oh, it's very warm. You should turn on the AC. And back home, I don't have AC, so it was perfect for me. So she turned it on, and as soon as she left, I turned it off and fall asleep.
Do you use the air conditioning?
Not at home.
I mean, but here, do you use it?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's not much ventilation in those rooms.
It was hard to get used to that.
Now, describe for me your home. Now, in your home, you don't have air conditioning. Do you have a lot of windows and long hallways so that there's a lot of airflow through your house?
Exactly. We have like windows open all the time and the doors as well.
Do you have screens on the windows?
Not in my home.
Okay. Do you have problems with bugs and things coming in?
Oh, I think we're just sort of used to have mosquitoes or things like that. So it doesn't really bother us anymore.
See, that's so interesting because in America, our homes used to be like that years ago, like when I was small and we didn't have air conditioning. But now it's totally different. They build houses, they build buildings, like in rentals. You can't open any of the windows in the rentals. And in the dormitory, sometimes you can open the windows, sometimes you can't. But you're never going to get the flow through of air that you would get in a house with a big hallway with open doors and lots of windows.
Exactly.
And so we've changed. Our culture has changed with the advent of air conditioning. Are there some places in Guatemala that are becoming more air conditioned, like in the cities?
Yeah, I will say so.
Is your home in a rural area?
Exactly.
Okay. And see, that makes all the difference. That's so interesting. Tell me this. You said, well, you expected these big buildings in America. Okay. What pictures of American cities had you seen? Was it L.A.?
Maybe. I have seen movies, exactly.
And New York.
New York, yeah.
Yes.
I was definitely sure about New York and Miami, but I didn't knew the settings for the other movies. I was just expecting those things to be like that. So it was a change. It was like, oh, this feels more like home.
Yeah, because it's not as built up, and it's more rural. Actually, Searcy's more rural than the Little Rock area, of course. That's so interesting. Anything else about that was sort of surprising to you?
Well, I think those were the biggest impressions at the very beginning. Other than the language barrier, Like, for example, asking for a spoon,
Mm-hmm.
like I couldn't remember how to say I want a spoon. So it was just like I want something to, and just
eat with.
making, yeah, exactly, trying to make nonverbal communication.
Uh-huh.
And people were really nice. So I was very glad that the people were very open and very helpful. So it was really easy to get to feel welcome to America.
You know, I've seen some travel companies furnish people with actually small pictures of common items, like a picture of a bathroom or a picture of a spoon or a fork that they can take with them when they travel, so they can just show the picture rather than actually say the words. But your English is very good. How long have you been here?
Well, this is my third year,
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't like that at the very beginning. At the beginning, people was like, "Say what? Say what?"
Did you find that annoying?
No, it was not annoying. It was just like sometimes I was feeling like shy. Instead, I'm very
Yes.
talkative, but sometimes that was like a barrier that I had to overcome. But since I'm a communications major, well, that was something that I thought I really need to do this. And
Yes.
just push myself.
Well, your English is excellent.
Thank you.
It's really good. Very, very good. One of the biggest differences sometimes between cultures has to do with something that we do so often and is so important to us, and that's eating. What were the major differences, if any, that you've noticed in the food?
Well, first thing, everything in America seems to be linked in some extent to food. Like if you have a church activity, you will have, you expect a potluck. If you have a people gathering for something, you will see food, and in big amounts usually. So that was my first impression. Like Americans like to eat, and then
So you don't have that that use of food a lot in Guatemala.
we have, but not at that extent. Like here is, you can notice.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's a lot of food. Now tell me the occasions in Guatemala when you will have food and have lots of food.
Well, for example, for Christmas, we'll have plenty of tamales, and we'll have plenty of food. For example, we have Dia de los Muertos. We will have like a special Guatemalan dish, and it's gonna be just a lot of that, and some other occasions probably.
So,
but
well, what other? You've got Christmas. What are the other holidays when you would have food? Do you have anything like our Thanksgiving?
No, we don't have Thanksgiving.
Do you
that
have-
was something new for me, actually.
Yeah.
Like I have experienced that in Guatemala because I have American teachers that they have like their Thanksgiving and they invite us sometimes, but nothing similar in our culture.
What about at church? When you go to church, do you have potlucks at church?
Not very often. I would say probably like for example, my church probably have 15,000 members, so
It's huge.
it's huge, and they
So
have
you
like
don't have
different
anything like
services
that.
throughout the day.
What about Easter? Do you
Easter-
have food at Easter?
Well, Easter is very different. We have Holy Week,
Uh-huh.
so we have a lot of traditions. And it's not like lots of food, it's just that we have a lot of, since Guatemala is mainly a Catholic nation,
Yes, so you have Lent.
I think so. But we have like alfombras, it's like carpets in the streets where people coming with procesiones. It's like 100 people.
Procession.
Exactly.
Yes.
Carrying idols in the streets just in remembrance of Christ.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you've got a lot of food at Christmas. What about on Sundays in your home?
Oh, Sundays we usually eat soup,
Okay.
and that was a change. Like for example, here in Arkansas, people like to eat soups like when it's really cold.
Yes.
But we don't get cold weather, so
You
we
have,
usually
but you have a lot of, is it hot soup or cold
eat hot soup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a Mexican soup called gazpacho. That's a cold soup. Do you eat gazpacho? Have you ever had that?
No.
Okay. Okay.
So Sundays it's a day for soups usually.
So what about birthdays? Do you have a food on birthdays?
Well, we have the regular cake and lots of food. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an occasion where we have lots of food.
Okay, so Christmas and on birthdays, but do you go out to eat a lot at restaurants?
Usually during the weekends, probably a Saturday afternoon or Sunday after church.
Well, you know, what do you think food serves as a purpose in America. Why do you think we have food at so many different gatherings?
I feel like people just love it, and that's something that it's easy to say. Like if you tell a student, hey, come, and we are not having food, oh, that's not something.
They don't want to come.
Yeah, exactly. But if you say, oh, we are going to have food, they're probably tired of eating the same thing over and over. So
Yeah.
they want to have something different, plus they want to share with other people.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. I think all cultures like sharing, and when you can share food and eat together, it gives you a sense of community. Whether it's at Christmas or Easter or birthdays or special holidays that you may have. Do you have any other holidays besides Christmas and Easter that you celebrate in Guatemala?
Well, we have several, but nothing like relevant related with food.
Yeah. Do you have an Independence Day?
Yes, it's September the 15th.
Okay. Do you have celebrations for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like every school, they have their own activities, and then probably the army is going to have a big activity in
Yeah.
Guatemala City
Yeah.
and things like that. One of the differences, like we use more firecrackers than here in the United States. Like that was a shock on my first Christmas.
Yeah.
Like people go to bed at 10 p.m. And we usually have like lots of people coming and going on Christmas on the 24th of December. So that was something different.
Well, you know, I think this is interesting because when I was a young boy growing up, we had all of our fireworks at Christmas. We did not have them at the 4th of July. We had most of them at Christmas, and that was what I would get for Christmas was a lot of fireworks, and we'd set those off Christmas Day. Do you do something similar to that?
In Christmas, yes, we have lots
That's
of
so
fire.
interesting, because that in my day that was a very common tradition. It's not as much anymore, not really. What about types of food? Is the food that we have here that we eat, is it very different from the food you have at home?
It's not like extremely different. But for example, the first time that I went with my sweet mate in my freshman year, he took me to Texas. And one morning we wake up, here are 2 cinnamon rolls in the table. So I eat them, and he's like, okay, it's time to go. And I didn't say anything, but in my mind was like, oh, this is just dessert. Where is the breakfast? Because you see, that was one.
That's all you ate for breakfast?
Yeah, that morning, yes.
Yeah. So you normally eat a larger breakfast?
Yeah, in Guatemala, yeah. And we eat like beans. We have scrambled eggs and probably something else. Could be like plantain or something.
Well, now let me ask you. You've been to the Mexican restaurants here, I'm sure. Is the food in those restaurants similar to the food that you have at home?
Well, I will say no. Not really, because the beans in here are not as black as the ones that I eat in
So you
home.
have black beans?
Yes, exactly.
Not
Or-
pinto beans, not brown beans?
No.
Okay.
We have black or red.
Uh-huh.
So the rice, it's probably similar, but it's not the same. And we don't eat a lot of that kind of tortilla. We eat corn tortilla.
Corn
back home.
tortillas, not flour.
Not flour.
Do you eat enchiladas
Yes.
and tamales and tacos?
Yeah.
Okay. Are the tacos that we have here, enchiladas, etc., are they similar to the ones you have?
I will say it's similar.
Okay. Is the spice level higher? That is your food spicier than ours?
In my personal taste, I don't like spicy things.
Yeah, I don't
But
either.
yeah, it will depend just on the
On the
people.
person.
Yeah, my mom loves spicy things, so it just depends.
So you mentioned plantains. Are there any other foods that you would eat that you don't get here at all? You're not going to get plantains.
Exactly, that was one of the changes. Let me think about something else. Fruit, like for example, I have oranges in my backyard. I have some fruits that I don't even know the name in English, that I can just go and take
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So
And you're not going to find that here.
exactly.
Yeah.
Even if you find the same fruit, it's not the same taste for some reason.
Well, it's probably because they're not fresh.
Exactly.
Because
So
you could go in your backyard and get that. I mean,
Exactly.
that's great.
we get a lot of mangoes and things. So we probably eat more fruit, and that was one of the changes.
Yeah, and that's healthier, I think.
Exactly.
Have you eaten in an American home? You obviously did, because you mentioned being there with your sweet mate down in Texas. And you noticed the breakfast was very different. What else did you notice in terms of differences about the way meals are conducted in people's homes?
Well, like as soon as I came to the United States, I met my host parents. Like it was a few weeks after I came. So eating with them, they eat really healthy. Like we laugh about it because it's like healthy bread, healthy this.
Yeah.
So I will say one of the biggest differences is that breakfast is not the most important meal of the day for Americans. While I feel like back home, my mom used to say like breakfast is the most important. So we tend to eat more during breakfast. So that was probably one of the differences.
What about the way the meals are conducted or served? In your home, does everyone sit down at the table together?
Usually, yeah.
The whole family?
We try to do that.
Yes. And your mother and dad are there?
My mom was
Your
there.
mom is there. Do you have grandparents maybe living in your home?
No.
No, it's, so
They've
it's
all
just
passed away.
your mom and your family that are there.
Exactly.
And does she sit down with you or does she serve you?
Yeah, one of the things she likes to turn off the TV. She don't like to
turn
have
off the TV,
distractions.
yes.
And she likes just us to have communion at the table.
Does she sit down with you?
Yes.
Okay, so that's similar to us.
Exactly.
Except in some homes, you know, some people do have the TV going during meals. And actually in America now, I think there are more families that don't sit down and eat together than used to.
Yeah, I noticed that. Usually mom and dad are working. So.
But the way the dishes are served, is it all set on the table? Or do you go over to the stove and help yourself to food and come over to the table?
Well, that's one of the differences. Like, for example, back home, I don't know if this same applies to every house in Guatemala, but at least the house that I grew up in, my mom served everything in the plates and just take the plates to the table. And then probably something that she knows I will get more of that, she will put it on the table. While here is more like the cookies on the stove, and you walk and you get whatever you want and then sit.
Yeah. So your mother serves the plates, brings them to you,
Yeah.
and then extra food she brings to the table?
Exactly, if she knows that we are going to get more of that.
Yeah, yeah. Is there some food in Guatemala that you really like that you can't get here, that you miss?
Well, just the homemade flavor. Like, I have been blessed. Like, I know some Guatemalan families around here, so I get to eat Guatemalan food every once in a while.
No, that's really good.
Exactly.
Is it the spices, you think?
It's very similar to what I get in home, so
Okay.
it feels good to go and visit them. Like, actually, this weekend, I'm going to spend it with a family from Guatemala. They used to live like 2 hours away from my home, so we have that sort of connection. But something that I cannot get here is the plantains, for example.
Yeah.
That's one thing, and I love those.
Now, are those the ones that look sort of like bananas, except
Exactly,
smaller?
it's bigger.
Oh, they're bigger.
They are
Okay.
bigger.
And you fry those.
Exactly. You can fry them, or you can do several different things. You cannot get tortillas, like
The corn.
the corn tortillas. Like, other than these Guatemalan families that I know, I haven't seen good
Well, where do
tortillas.
they get it?
Well, they get the masa and they cook it.
Okay. And so they just make it from scratch.
Well, not from scratch, but they know how to make it because it's different. It's
Yeah.
not like a machine or anything. It's with their hands.
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of like homemade pasta.
Exactly.
Homemade pasta tastes so much different than the pasta you buy in the store. Okay. Now let's talk about celebrations that you have in Guatemala. Would you describe a typical funeral that you would have in your hometown?
Exactly. Well, people dress with black clothes, like that's the tradition. You go to the funeral place, and the casket is always closed. Like, I went to a funeral in Tennessee, and the casket was open. And when I came inside, I was like, "Whoa, why is that open?"
It seems strange. Didn't
Yeah,
it?
it was like, okay, and I don't know, that was weird.
And not everybody was in black either.
No, not everybody was.
That's a custom in America that's sort of gone away. Not as many people wear black.
It is traditional for us to have coffee and
Before or after?
during.
During the funeral.
Yeah, when they have.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How long does the funeral last?
Well, they will have the body at the church or at the capilla, wherever they have it, like for probably one night or a few hours, and then the next morning they're gonna take it to the cemetery.
Is the funeral held in a church or in a home or a funeral home?
Usually we have like the funeral homes. There are companies that provide this service. Every once in a while, they will probably do it in church, but that's not very common, as far as I know, or at the home of the family.
Yeah. Do they have anything like a wake? Do you know what I mean by a wake, where the family sits up all night long with the body? Do they do anything like that at all?
Well, they mourn
Yes.
near to wherever the body is. And another difference is like cemeteries here. As long as I have seen, they all bury bodies below
Yes.
the ground. But we have something different in many of our cemeteries. Like we build something on top of.
A mausoleum.
Exactly, and we put the bodies inside.
There are a few of those. They have more of them in way down in the southern part of the United States, where the water table is real low, because they can't dig the graves, so they put them up above ground in little mausoleum type things. Do you have music? What sort of music do you have at a typical funeral?
In a funeral?
Do you have singing?
No, not that I have seen.
Okay.
Maybe some do, but not that I know.
But any music at all, like an organ, I guess, an organ or piano playing, or?
Maybe, but at least that wasn't my focus of attention whenever I have been one of those. So I guess it's not like something traditional.
Do they carry the coffin out of the funeral home or the house? Do you have pallbearers, individuals who get all along the side of the coffin and walk it on out, and then you go to the graveyard? Okay. What about a wedding? How are your weddings different? Are they different?
Well, that's quite an interesting question, because what I know from American weddings is just what friends have told me and what I have seen in movies. But one of the biggest difference that I have seen is that at the end of the watermelon ceremony, have like a bell in the entrance of the church.
Like a bell?
Like a bell,
okay.
Exactly. And then the bell is full of beans and rice, and that's to bless the new couple. And whenever they are coming out of the church, they release the beans and the rice.
Well, you know, we used to throw rice, and I don't know other things that they do now besides rice, but it's the same. It's very similar.
Exactly.
But not in one. It's like each individual person throws the rice, as opposed to having like a big bell thing where people would walk under. That's very interesting. But other than that,
I think it's very similar.
Now, are there meals associated with weddings?
Well, a specific food for weddings? I don't think so. It's just big meals, like elegant.
Big cakes. Do they have a full dinner?
Yeah, I would say so.
What about at funerals? Do they have dinners at funerals?
I don't think so. Just coffee and some bread.
See, in the United States, we'll have a big meal, usually, after the funeral. A big meal, usually provided by all the people in the church.
Okay.
And sometimes it's before the funeral or after. Now, just to sort of wind up our discussion, are there many nonverbal differences, in nonverbal behaviors between America and Guatemala? And I've given you a little list there.
Yeah, exactly.
What about eye contact?
I feel like we have more eye contact, and also, for some reason, probably just be my impression, but we have more nonverbal communications with people.
You're more extroverted in your body movement and stuff like that.
Exactly, I will say so. Like we just make a few movements to try to indicate what to do. If somebody asks for addresses, it's funny because if I have American friends that go down there and ask, I want to go to this place, and of course we don't have GPS.
Yeah, so what do you do?
So we start like making movements with our hands.
You go here and here and here and here and here.
Exactly.
That's neat.
So whenever somebody from outside of Guatemala listens to that, they get really confused.
What about conversation distance? Do people stand closer to each other, or?
Yeah, I want to say this, but I say it in a good way. Don't misinterpret me. But I feel like Americans have like a bubble, and they don't want people to get closer than that.
No, that's very true. That's very true.
And we don't really know much about it.
Do people touch more?
A little bit more, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
So that's what, in nonverbal terms, they call a contact culture. You stand closer, you look more, you touch more.
To say hi, if you go to Guatemala or probably any Latin country, you're gonna kiss
Okay, you do.
between guys and girls. Never kiss another guy, please. So just between guys
Men
and
and
girls.
women.
Yeah, exactly.
You kiss the side of the cheek?
Exactly.
One cheek,
Yeah,
not both cheeks.
only one cheek.
How do men greet each other?
A shake of hands.
Handshakes. Just plain handshakes.
Exactly.
Yeah, no bumping or.
Sometimes if you are like among teenagers, they're gonna probably have their own style to say,
Yeah.
to shake their
Well, what
hands
about older people? Is there a difference between the way older people?
If I will greet somebody that's older, I would just go with a straight handshake.
Do you look at them in the eye?
I try to do that all the time. It's just
Yeah.
a way to say hi.
Yeah, so it's a very, very informal type of greeting.
Exactly.
Okay, what about conversations? Are conversations conducted in similar ways in Guatemala?
We're louder.
Okay, so people, and they gesture more and they speak more loudly.
Yeah.
And would you consider the people to be more excitable?
Oh, yeah, that's one way to say it.
Yeah, yeah, because in the United States, it depends on where you are, but a lot of times people will be more subdued and not as loud. I don't know why. Anything else you've noticed in terms of nonverbal communication differences?
Like if you were walking, like I have been in New York, I have been in Miami, and I have been in different places. But as a general rule, I would say people don't like to look other people in their eyes.
Yeah.
They walk and they keep going straight. When I feel like that's a little bit different in Guatemala, like I feel people is more aware of what's going on in their surroundings.
Yeah. Even in Guatemala City?
Yes.
Okay. Because you see more of that in urban areas, where people don't look at each other. It's distant. You feel distant. You don't feel like you're a part of what's going on there. And so you have that sense of community.
Yeah,
that
or
you
probably, a sense of you want to feel safe.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you know what's going on.
Yeah, you know what's going on, you're aware of your environment, and you feel part of wherever you are.
Exactly.
That's nice. Well, thank you for talking with me.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. And I hope you've learned something about Guatemala. I certainly have. And I hope you can use these same sorts of principles to interview people, whatever international program you happen to be. Thank you.